I was a monk. I studied with the best of them.
How was it going from regular life to monk life back to regular life?
It was very different coming back to Los Angeles and trying to preach people about a lifestyle they should live. I learned very quickly that people don't have time for this. I came back from monastic life and was like, wow, I'm just kind of a preachy asshole.
Pedram, appreciate you coming on today, brother. I know it was a little bit of a hike from your neck of the woods out here.
Not that big of a hike. I used to fly here, and now I'm back on the coast, which is got all its own math. It's a very different reality.
Yeah, living in Utah, I'm sure it was like, oh, it's 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. It didn't matter really what time of day. Now it's like, you want me where at what time?
Yeah, it's funny is in Utah, I was there for 5 years. The question was how many miles. Here it's how much time.
Yeah, miles don't matter.
Don't matter. Right? Don't matter.
Unless you're on a motorcycle.
Unless you're on a motorcycle, unless you can, got a drone that could drop you somewhere. Now it's just, how many people are between me and where I need to be. And it's an interesting cadence, right? In a reality that it's just, you put enough molecules in a pot together, it starts boiling. And,
Yep.
you see people get more stressed out. You see people get agitated. It's just people on people is friction.
Oh, and the road rage out here is last 5 years, I'm sure you've seen it drastically change.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like, I don't even honk at people unless it's like a quick little blip. Hey, watch out. But I very rarely lean on the horn.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to deal with crazy.
Yeah, and there's plenty of crazy. There's plenty of crazy. I lived in Texas for a while, lived in Utah for a while.
Did you like Texas?
I like Texas. Yeah. I like everywhere. Like, I'm just easy.
Okay.
Right? I'm just like, oh, this place is pretty and, they have groceries, right? Like, I'm not that picky about places I like new, right? But like in Texas, you don't lay on the horn because dude's got a gun. Same thing in Utah, right? And so
like on the rack in the back.
yeah, like, open carry. And so like there's just different kinds of cadence and ways to interact with humans.
But I prefer that methodology.
Yeah, honestly, it's like we didn't lock our doors because who the hell's coming into a house because you assume the guy's got a gun, right?
Yeah.
And so there is this kind of community policing that happens when you're not relying on someone else to protect you.
Definitely makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Where you're at now, fairly safe. Like,
Yeah,
it's not like being in LA, even Brentwood, where we are now. It's like, dude, there's home invasions left and right now.
I know. It's crazy. One of my best friends lives by UCLA, and I thought it was hyperbole, but there's just helicopters over his house all the time. We were visiting for a weekend. I'm like, what is happening here? Right? Just dudes breaking in, taking your stuff.
There's no recourse.
There's no recourse, right? And that's unsettling, right? That is an unsettling way to live because a big part of where I feel like a lot of my patients don't get better is you have to feel safe for your body to heal.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah. And if you live in a place where like you got to worry about, did you lock the door?
Right.
It doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy.
No,
That's
like,
it. For me, I got a Doberman, like he's my first line of defense.
Totally.
Gives me time to grab whatever I need to grab, but luckily where I live, I'm comfortable. Like I don't have to worry, don't lock the door. Makes me feel warm and fuzzy versus having to lock it.
Yeah. Well, that's just it, right? And so I come from a martial arts background, right? So I'm surrounded by a lot of folks that have, a yoga background. And yoga is very different, right? It's like all feel good and warm and fuzzy and all this kind of stuff. Whereas martial arts, on the front, it's like, oh, this is conflict, this is battle, this is, stress. But it's so that when you live your life in a way where you're handled, right? Like I walk into a restaurant, just my natural instinct is to say, I'm going to sit over there, with your Godfather style, right?
Yep.
Like
every time.
And it's just part of my training, right?
Yeah, I'll go on dates and they're like, why do you always have to face the door? I'm like, it's just built in me.
My issue has always been as a martial artist, where are the threats and how can I create safety for this organism, right? And then, now it extends to my family. Now it extends to my home, right? But, so I have 2 dogs. I have these guys, right? And then I have whatever I need. I create a scenario where I can sleep peacefully at night because
I've built it
in, right? That's the cushion I've built in, right? Now, that doesn't mean kids don't get sick and dogs don't get infections and, chaos.
I did martial arts from, think 6 to like 15, got my black belt in Taekwondo, and then my dad threw me into Krav Maga, high school wrestling, and then I kind of just left it at that. I was like, all right, I know how to wrestle. I know the form. Like, I'm good now. What forced you down your path of, or pushed you down your path of martial arts and then the Kung Fu and just your whole journey forward from there?
Yeah, my dad, I think same thing. Like my dad, did judo, and so he's like threw me into Hapkido, and so I did Hapkido as a kid, and then got into the Korean arts, and I was in the Korean arts for all the way through high school, and then actually tore the labrum of my hip when I was 15.
How do you do that?
Dude, it was like we're you do these stretches and the high kicking stuff where you have your foot on the other dude's shoulder, and he comes over to demonstrate on me one of the black belts, right? And he's like, "This is a side kick, and this is a front kick, and this is a side," and I'm just feeling this thing, and I'm 15 and just going, "Hey, question in the back, right?" And I'm just like, "Hey, man, that didn't feel right." Fast forward 20 years of being, young and flexible, I start, trail running and all this stuff. I'm like, that hip. And it took a minute to put 2 and 2 together because,
you had to go back.
There's a million reasons. Yeah, there's a million reasons your back or your hip's going to hurt. But then I went in, they're like, yeah, how'd you tear this thing? I'm like, yeah, I know. I know the moment.
I know the exact day and time.
That's it. And so
you lived with that for 20 years.
I lived with it for 20 years. And, to be frank, for those 20 years, it wasn't much of a blip, right? When you're young, you have off-road tires. You just run over stuff. Once I started hitting 30, 35, the trail running started to hurt. And then like all the compensatory shit, right? Where you're like, well, because your hip hurts a little.
You're compensating for the other side.
The low back on the left hurts and then your neck hurts. You're like, what the hell is all this shit, right? And then because I'm in the medical space, you call friends, and not like the dumb friends that say take Advil. You call friends who know what they're doing, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, your posture, you're this, you're that. And then you start unraveling what you've done to yourself in the first 3 decades. And if you don't do that, then you're retiring and playing golf and taking a leave, and you're living the American dream.
I won't even play golf with my back. No chance.
You can't twist.
And people are like, let's go bowling. I'm like, I've had 2 back surgeries and a shoulder, and I need a new shoulder. Not doing it.
Yeah. It's hard.
They're like, you're in your 30s. I'm like, I had fun.
Yeah. Do what you can that you can keep doing, right? And so like for me, I look at the longevity sports. Like I lived on a ski hill for 5 years, right? Just recently ended that stint. And, guys skiing into their 80s and 90s, I'm like, all right, great, sign me up. Right,
because low impact, you're just pushing
until you hit a tree. Yeah. But if you know what you're doing, you can ski for forever. Tennis, less impact, but start and stop sport.
Yeah,
right? It could get you right. And swimming.
Just thinking about a knee.
Yeah, knees. Right, knees. That's
swimming.
The problem.
I feel like it's low impact though.
Swimming is low impact, right? And swimming is if you could do it in a way where you can kind of sustainably do it and keep your cardio up, it's wonderful, right? Basketball. I love basketball, but me playing with a bunch of 40-somethings that, have no anger management in their lives and, don't know how to talk to their spouse and are taking it out on the court becomes a really big issue because now I'm surrounded by numbskulls trying to work out their wiggles, on
the court.
On the court. And like, I come from a martial arts tradition where we work out our aggression on the mat. We, punch each other and block and do whatever, but then we go get a burrito and we've worked out our aggression.
Yep.
You have people that are trying to channel their aggression in a sport, but don't play within the confines of the sport. Throwing elbows and all this kind of stuff. I can't tell you how many grown men my age end up getting injured playing basketball with guys that just don't understand that they can't stop as fast because now they're 50 and they weigh 30 pounds more. And so you just got, you have to prepare for the eventuality that injuries happen. And then you have to train to play, not play to train, which means if you don't work out and you just go play basketball and that is your workout, you're fucked. You have to work out to play basketball.
Oh yeah.
Right. And a lot of guys don't get that.
No, they just go out there and then tear an Achilles, whatever they hurt. And it's just like, kind of got to do something else. Like, I understand you're doing a sport, but you can't just go cold turkey.
No, you can't go cold turkey. And that's, again, like I don't weight lift to be a muscle man. I weight lift so that my body stays, on its frame when I do other stuff, right? Mountain biking, all that.
when I'm going to ride motorcycles or get in the race car, it's like I go do Pilates for a while before just to get my core strength. They're like, but it's not that taxing. I'm like, you go manhandle a motorcycle, you go sit in a race car where you're going 90 miles an hour over jumps, like brace. That's all you're doing the whole time.
Where are you doing over jumps?
Mexico, and there's a
The
race,
Baja style.
Baja stuff. There,
Super fun.
there was a race this weekend, but it's my daughter's third birthday. So I'm like, hey guys, somebody else take my spot.
So fun.
I'm not coming.
So fun. I got fully into all that stuff maybe about 5, 6 years ago. Got my first Raptor, tricked it out, did a bunch of stuff on it, and then I would just go out mobbing, like sand dune style. I'd go, rock crawling and all of it. And I was like, oh my God,
That whole nother ball game. And it's like so, and you and I were talking about it on the phone the other day about meditation, how people do it. That's my version of meditation.
Totally. You can't afford the luxury of a thought if you're sending it
Nope.
at 90 miles an hour.
Like I got a little bit of music piped into my helmet and then co-pilot yelling at me half the time, but dude, you're in it. There's no thinking about work, thinking about your kid. Otherwise, look, my last off, I went off a 1,000-foot cliff. I blew my turn and it was just a recipe for a bad day. Luckily, I walked away with minor injuries, but I was lucky to still walk.
Wow. You should see the other guy, right? Like that's what happened to the car. Is this moto or?
No, this was in the trophy truck. It was still drivable.
Wow.
Cage.
Ish.
8 pillars came down a bit. But we were arguing as a team. We're like, do we keep going? They're like, you take another rollover. You're not walking this time. I was like,
Because the cage is gone.
because the cage is gone.
Yeah.
I was like, but we're halfway there. They're like,
Yeah.
we're done. It's 3:00 in the morning. Let's go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we're halfway to La Paz. It's like, okay, fine.
How fun are those Baja?
Oh, it's even not even racing, just being part of the team, just feeling that energy.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I'm sure when you were off-roading in Utah, going with all those guys, it's just you feel that energy, even though someone's in another car. Maybe you have walkie-talkies, maybe you don't, but it's just that fun being out there. And the camaraderie of, oh, you're stuck? Let's figure out how to get you out.
That's it. We're stuck. You're stuck. We're stuck.
Because we ain't calling AAA.
I got a taste of it in, I think, 98. I was in Bolivia on the Salt Flats, and we hired some guy with some, what was this, like a Toyota Land Cruiser, and we were out like
Just
a week
mobbing
out in the middle of nowhere, and the damn thing breaks, right? And so we're, no one's got cell phones. There's nothing, right?
Even if you had a cell phone, what are you doing?
Yeah, what you can do, right? Like you're in Bolivia. And so and the guy, they're trained mechanics, right? But the guy didn't know anything. So it was me and some dude from the Israeli army that are like, I guess we got to figure this out, right? And so we rigged a carburetor from the gas tank up top. And we just MacGyvered this thing. And every 30 minutes or something, it would just not work. And we crawled back into port.
But you made it.
It was so fun. It was so
And it's a
fun.
memory
Being
you will
stuck.
die with.
That's it. But yeah, that's it. It's the tribal camaraderie. It's the problem solving, and it's the no one's coming to help me, right? It's how we started this talk, right? It's like, oh, the police have to protect me.
No.
It's like, no, I pity the fool who walks through my door, right? And if you have that type of stance outward to say, look, I have my own agency. I can protect myself and my family. And yeah, it's nice to have police, but I have this skill.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing, the same agency I like to impart on my students, my patients, anyone who's getting into the healthcare space. Is like you flop on some wellness table and say, fix me, right?
Yeah, and
good luck with that.
And I've gone down that, I was in healthcare for a long time. And then once I got out of it, I used to be a fat ass. I was 265 pounds and I don't work out, but I did the gastric sleeve, changed my diet, changed my meds, and really just started on this health journey. And it all started with, I destroyed my back years ago on a motorcycle. And 2020, I discovered a bioaccelerator in Colombia and they got me pain-free. They got me feeling back in my left foot. And that was the catalyst to wanting to get healthy, because I could actually wake up and be like, oh, this doesn't hurt. That doesn't hurt. I can feel my foot when I walk. And it was just, the healthcare in this country doesn't really teach you that.
I don't think the healthcare in this country is interested in that. The healthcare, I mean, look, we're both guys that came from that space, right? It's a business. It's a really good business, and the business falls apart when you're better. And so the incentives are not aligned for a guy like you. I mean, man, you could have been doing surgeries. You could be on lifetime of drugs. You'd be in physical therapy. You'd be,
Oh yeah.
all of it.
And I did the surgery twice.
Sure.
It helped a little
Ish.
bit. Ish. Like maybe
Like lumbar disc surgeries.
L4, L5, S1.
Yeah, but
And-
you know what that's like.
Well, the
right?
second time they nicked my dura. I was laid up for 12 days. I couldn't move. They thought I wasn't coming back from that one. No pillow, no nothing. I'm like, wait, I can't get out of this bed for 12 days. I'm 21 years old. They're like, you're stuck.
Yeah,
I was like, how do I pee? They're like, we can catheter you.
we'll
I'm
take care of that. Yeah,
I'm like, no, I'm 21. You're not sticking a tube up my dick. And after the first day, I was like, give me the
give me
tube.
the tube. Give me the tube. Yeah.
And I realized like that's not the life I wanted to live.
No. I mean, well, listen. I don't know how much choice you had in that moment, right? Like,
No, I
Yeah.
had a 9 mil herniation.
yeah.
You're stuck at that point.
Statistically, every single disc takes. So you figure the rough math is 50% of your body weight is absorbed in your lumbar spine, and you have 5 segments. So if you take out a disc, that's 20%, right, of the entire back, right? So that's like it's just the math of how much pressure comes in to the low back, and if you take 20% of your shock absorption out,
Oh,
you're in 5 years you're blowing a disc up or down, right? And
Yep.
so you start doing back surgeries in your 30s, you're fucked.
yeah. Luckily, I did a microdiscectomy, so I still have a majority of it. And then I essentially the test dummy for the stem cell clinic. So every year I go, I do a new MRI, and you're actually seeing everything regenerate over the course of the last 4 or 5 years.
Really?
Which is like you see the disc coming back to life, you see everything coming back to life. It's a slow and steady process, but because you go into the operating room, they knock you out, and they're using fluoroscopy, and they're going into the facets, the discs, and they're shooting straight in.
Stem cells, what, like exosomes? What kind of stem cells?
I always botch the name.
Mesenchymal, yeah.
Those.
Mesenchymal, yeah.
And
And you have before and afters showing all this. Amazing. You show that to your orthopedist. What does he say?
once I discovered that, I never went back.
Yeah.
I was like, for
I
what?
don't even care what he says, right?
Yeah, in that crash, I herniated C456, and I was like, just feels like a kink in my neck. I'm like, went to Columbia, they shot me up, and every like 18 months, it's almost like need a little bit more WD-40. They go in there, and good for another year or two. And every time I go, it just progressively gets better and better.
Amazing. The challenge with that is,
Cost.
yeah, you got money, right? Someone who doesn't have money, doesn't have that option. It really sucks, right? Like I know, rich guys get away with murder now, right? Like it's just so easy with all the stuff coming out to just go on some international cruise or go to Colombia, go to one of these places, and just the shit works.
But I did discover a place in Tijuana recently that very affordable.
Interesting. How affordable? Like how much for
Vials, $500, and average treatment's like 3 vials
so $1,500. That's with labor, or that's
with labor.
same stuff?
They will not go intradisc, but they'll go into the muscles around it, and it'll seep through. Obviously, because you're not paying for the OR time and all that other stuff. But
So they were doing it with a C-arm. Yeah. I mean, listen,
for $1,500, if I didn't have the means,
you got options here.
I'm going that way.
100%. 100%.
And then, they'll also do EDTA on you. They'll do glutathione, like all the detoxing stuff as well, just to get all the daily shit out of your body. I go once a quarter just for their detoxing.
Amazing. How long do you?
3 days, and it's the detox part's like $1,500 for 3 days.
And they put you up in a hotel, like what?
Stay at the Marriott for $100 a night or whatever.
In TJ.
In TJ.
Interesting. God, I haven't been to TJ in like 30 years. It's funny. You hear about TJ and you're like, oh, it's yeah, exactly.
I was
It's like
there.
Juarez.
I was there last week. Like, it is not bad by any means. My boy picked us up, crossed the border, ate at a really amazing restaurant, went to the hotel, walked to the clinic in the morning, did our treatments, ate tacos, and then came back home. Just went for a day.
It's like anything else. Don't piss in the alley. Don't buy drugs. Don't be an idiot. And
Yeah,
TJ's
don't wear
probably-
jewelry. Like,
Don't flaunt it.
don't flash. Don't go with large bills. Put money in different places.
Park your car on the U.S. side.
Yep, right on the border. And the clinic actually, they'll send a car for you. Or I have a friend from Racing Baja. I'm like, yo, come get me.
Got it.
And they'll take me to like the best street tacos, all that stuff. And people are like, you eat street tacos down there? I'm like,
Hell yeah.
fuck yeah. You can't really find a bad taco spot.
No.
Like where you're going to get sick.
Right. Right. Well, it's just if you go to a place that has a lot of customers,
Yeah,
eat fresh.
Just look at the line. That's all you got to do.
Totally.
It's like the taco trucks in LA.
Totally. I had most of my life, whether it was like Peru or India, I just eat whatever, right? Like I'm in the culture. I'm like, eating with my hands. I'm in it, right? Twice I got burned, but of
all the years of travel.
thousands of meals, statistically speaking, I'm
How
probably
many times have you gotten burned in the States?
probably more. Yeah, definitely more. Right? Late night street tacos coming out of a nightclub in LA.
Bacon wrap hot dog, whatever it is.
Yeah, bad choices. A couple drinks in you, bad choices, right?
And it's bitten us all. And I think I've gotten bit out of the country like 3-4 times, maybe. And medical background, there's always some Lomotil in my backpack or something to
Totally.
stop it.
Totally. I started travel. So there's two things. One is botanically, Huanglian Suwan coptis extract is incredible.
Spell that. I'm just fucking with you.
Go COPTIS coptis. But then I always just like had Cipro, if shit hit the fan.
Well, now there's like these companies that you can literally buy a whole travel med kit that it's got essentially everything for $150. If shit goes south, to cover you, your kids, whatever. Best $150 ever.
Mefloquine, no mefloquine. Would you do it?
I would.
Yeah. Yeah. So funny. Like in my younger days, I was so puritanical on the hippy dippy shit, right? Where it's just like, I wouldn't put that in my body. And then you get malaria, right? And you're like, well, now that's in your body. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah. Like there's certain things I'm like, no, we're going to play with that. We'll be fine. And other times I'm like, ugh. Like if I can avoid an antibiotic, if I don't have to, I'll just ride the wave.
Yeah. Listen, you got a 3-year-old. Sometimes they get really sick, right? And I've had, I have friends that won't do it, and then they end up in the ER, right?
Well, even like just getting a toddler to take Robitussin, friggin' nightmare. And so, suppositories do come in handy. Everybody's like, you're going to do that? I'm like, I am not dealing with this kid screaming. Like once they're asleep,
yep,
all done.
Party's over. Yeah.
And there's no, oh, this tastes bad. You're asleep, dude. You don't even know what I did.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if they wake up with your finger, but
then that's a different story.
Dad.
And look, little kids are supposed, once they pass 104, that's when I get worried.
Yeah.
Before 104, I'm like, all right, we're going to fight this the best we can.
All right, so you were a pharmacist. The book says on the peds side here, everyone's giving people, Advil, giving their kids Advil with low-grade fever. You don't go there?
Nope.
Yeah. This is tough. Like my wife's best friend's a pediatrician. We got all these peds in our, and I'm like, look, low-grade fever just means the lights are
We're talking like a 101, 102?
Yeah, exactly.
Or like a 100.4?
100.4, right?
My daughter...
Right.
My daughter was born in our bathtub. Like, this chick will go out in the winter and jump in the pool. And, like, I'll let her for a while. And then once I see her lips start to turn a little purple, I'm like, all right.
Yeah, let's go inside.
And I don't even, like, rapid heat her. I just wrap her in a towel and let her body fight it back up.
Should be a strong baby.
And she got COVID with all of us. She did better than all of us.
Sure.
And couple colds, couple, stomach bugs. Like she ate some gum underneath a table the other day and
oops.
I was like, this is why we don't eat that.
Yeah, totally.
And there was nothing to give her. Like, puke it out, kid.
Did she?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, great. It's better than pooping it out. That'll take a minute.
Yeah, her mom called and she's like, she's throwing up. Thought about it for like a couple hours. I'm like, oh, the gum. I was like, tell her this is why we don't eat gum from under the table. Daddy will buy you new gum.
You know what that shit is, too. I mean, I don't know what kind of gum she found under her table.
Oh, it was a green one, so I'm sure it was fucking magical.
Yeah, exactly. Those, oh man, gum used to be, from a tree, and it was disgusting, and it would, get hard in like, minutes.
2 seconds.
So they're like, oh, let's put sugar on it. Then they're like, oh shit, everyone's getting cavities. So they're like, let's do sugar free. So now it's aspartame. And eventually what it devolved into is basically artificial flavors, aspartame, and food grade plastic that you're swallowing.
Oh, that's peachy.
So it's just
like, I know when I go to Air One and I get their gum, I chew it for 2 seconds. I'm like, this is gross.
Yeah, you pay $9 for like, 5 bites. And it's not, yeah, because that's not like the food grade plastic gives you the texture of the gum that we have become accustomed to. But gum is one of the things I tell people to just cut out of your life because it
Well, it's
is,
bad for your jaw. It's just bad for some. And then Dr. Pompa was on the show last week, and he's like, every male in the U.S. now has plastic in their testicles.
Mhm.
I'm like, you're joking. He's like, no, 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 go look it up. Like, and it's just crazy how much plastic is around now.
Mhm.
Water bottles, everything. And I'm like, I just walked into a bagel shop. I was like, oh, you have glass water bottles? I'll take one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's inside out, right? So you're chewing gum, swallowing plastic. You're drinking bottled water, you're swallowing plastic. You are wearing something that's synthetic and it's
Your body's
your
absorbing.
body's absorbing plastic. You have synthetic underwear, you're absorbing plastic right through your testicles. I mean, it's just what the fuck have we done?
Oh, it's
And
insane. And like, I can thank my kid's mom. Like, she got me on the Thai stick deodorants, changing the toothpaste out, like just a bunch of little things. And it's like, okay, we got rid of all the crappy cookware and so on and so forth. And it's just, I didn't realize like the outgassing in your car. Like, luckily you're by the beach. I'm in the valley, dude. Like, it's 115 some days. Like, you want to roll the windows down, let everything out. And everybody's like, why? I'm like,
you want to breathe that shit. You want to breathe that shit. I mean, we literally just had this because I was telling you offline. It's like the big Ford Raptor in Laguna Beach isn't fitting anywhere, and so we're like, all right, let's get one EV.
how do you feel driving in an EV? And I'm not talking about like more the EMF.
Yeah, you live in a world of trade-offs. My ideal universe is I don't go anywhere, right? I love being home, right? Like I got a pool, I see the ocean, I'm good, right? But if I got to go somewhere, this is me having grown up in LA, going from Venice Beach to North Hollywood for Kung Fu 5 days a week. There's no fucking joy of driving left in this guy, right? that party's over.
Yep.
So it's like if I could, when Waymo is ready, I'm going to be like, here are my children, take them to school, right? Like I just get me there, get me back, I'm done. And so
That's why I like it.
yeah, so like I have all this like EMF protecting underwear and like stuff.
Yeah,
to, like,
lambs
rain shield
and-
it. Yeah, all that shit. I don't know. Is it better?
Have you ever gone through TSA wearing that underwear?
I have. I used to wear.
Did
like
you get sent to this? So they sent me, this was before I had pre-check, and they scan you. And when you're wearing that, it blocks everything like you're hiding something. So they sent me to a secondary screening, and I'm like, dude, it's my underwear. They're like, yeah, we have to check everything. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I mean, this is a perfect way for you to sneak a dagger on
Yeah.
the thing. So I used to wear, way before any of this stuff became like much commercialized, there was one company, like super granola hippy dippy, that wove silver into underwear, and I'd wear these hoodies. So I was like, why would you do that? And I'm Iranian, right? So it's just like, you fucking terrorist. And I'm just like, oh, dude, I'm just trying to
I'm just trying to
get on a flight.
live longer.
Yeah. I'm trying to not glow in the dark and have testicular cancer. Thank you very much, right? It's trade-offs, right? Trade-offs. I mean, how do I feel about being in a V8 polluting, the environment? But like we joke about this all the time. We had the first Rivian when the SUV came out. I had the first SUV in the country delivered. They like bring it as all this hoopla. They're like, you're our customer number one. He gets this thing, and everyone's like, and I'm in Park City, Utah, which is a bunch of like, liberal transplants, right? So they're like, oh my God, you're doing the greenest thing. And my wife stopped it, but I had a bumper sticker made that said powered by dirty coal that I was putting on the Rivian because I'm like, this is fucking bullshit, right? Like we can't do solar
Yep.
in a snowy place,
Nope.
right? But like I'm trying to do my part with an EV, but Utah is powered by coal, dirty ass coal. So
your wife didn't let you put the bumper sticker?
she didn't like, yeah, she's not as cynical as I am. But I'm just like, look, let's just be real about this. Like I'm trying to do my part, but if I were to truly be a part of this, then we would be pulling wind power from Wyoming or something. It's just hard, right? So the trade-offs are always there. People who are trying to be ideal about everything don't understand that the entire economy, our entire dollar, the value of the time you put into the thing you call work is tied to energy, and it's tied to petroleum-based energy. The petrodollar fuels the economy. It is tied, it's pegged to the petroleum dollar. And until that changes, and there's all sorts of shit talk about, Bitcoin in green ways to harvest it and all sorts of ways to kind of get
It's
off
still
the
tied
petroleum
to
dollar. Yeah, but like if you get it off the petroleum dollar and you set it to some sort of green energy standard, okay, that's interesting, right? And there's a lot of guys with aircraft carriers who are standing between, this reality and that, right? But until then, we live in a world of trade-offs. And to answer your question, I will put up with EMFs in a Tesla to be carbon not neutral, but carbon diminished, and have the robot drive me around. And just the moral of the story is I don't want to go very far. I curate my world to be in a place and have the world come to me and broadcast information, write books, all the shit that I do, from a comfortable perch where I'm not burning carbon to get around. Right? I don't go to as many conferences anymore. Whole Foods delivers, but the guy delivered it in a Toyota that was gas powered. Like, let's not be smug about it. It's just, you can't be perfect.
It's a very well way to put it.
It's, it's hard, but I think the spiritualists and the hippies and, everyone's such a Puritan, and they're being cynical and hypocritical. And, I live in a reality where my kids want Nikes. And so am I going to sit there and say, fuck you, some child in Indonesia made that, I'm not going to let you wear it?
You're buying the Nikes.
Or let the guy wear the Nikes and pick a different battle, right? I'm wearing Nikes. I'm wearing Nikes, right? I also have Toms. They're not as comfortable. So no. I've done films on conscious capitalism. I've met some of the captains of conscious capitalist movement. A couple of them are arrogant pricks, right? They're not nice people. Right. And so it's like, okay, thanks for being a conscious capitalist, but you're also a narcissist. Right. And so, it's just, you do your best and you work towards the goal line of making yourself better every day instead of trying to be perfect and then hiding the fact that you sneak cigarettes somewhere. Right.
Just a little bit better every day.
Yeah.
Just keep pushing.
Yeah. Or just sucking on a ketamine lozenge, because you don't drink. Right. Well, okay. There's trade-offs.
Could be psilocybin instead.
It could be psilocybin. Right. It's weird. I'll tell you, having lived in Utah for 5 years, I came back and I was like, oh my God, I smell pot. Right. And I wasn't in a pot legalized environment.
Yep.
Where like it brought back all that high school shit where you're like 5-0, right? Like it's the reality is changing in front of us.
And it's constantly evolving.
Yeah. And my son's like, what is that? I'm like, oh, that's marijuana. You can smoke it, I think when you're 18, 21, what is it?
18.
18. So when you're 18, you could choose to smoke this legally. Here's what it does to your brain. Here's what it does to,
And we're not even adding all the chemicals that they're spraying on it now that you're vaporizing.
That's the problem. That's the problem is the black market is still alive. The agribusiness has come in and is using all the chemical inputs to make it cheaper. And, I think the hippies are still doing it right. Like if I don't smoke pot, but like if I were to smoke pot, I would probably get it from some organic, clean, green, super hippie conscious
Go
source.
find some greenhouse fucking in the hills.
Yeah, someone who's doing it with love, someone who's, it like understands that this is a plant and it has, like plant spirit medicine, all of it. But like the commodification of it, not all vapes are created equal, right? Like you're poisoning
vapes have propylene glycol. Right. You're not supposed to vaporize propylene glycol.
No, no, you're not. And vaping in general, it's just
horrible for you.
Yeah, yeah. So, I fortunately, I don't have an addictive personality. I grew up with a lot of guys smoking pot, and you just look at the scoreboard. Some of them are doing fine. Some of the people who came to pot later because they were anxious and pot was their medicine, I think are doing fine. Some of the people who grew up smoking pot and lost their motivation, I've noticed have bumps in the road and issues. And the people that were hiding their trauma and self-medicating because they weren't healing, I don't think pot served them. Right. And so I'm a big fan of psychedelic assisted psychotherapies. I'm a big fan of all the shit that people are doing to get better. But I also see a lot of people pick up their kind of like Burning Man identity and off ramp into then just going into drug use, but not doing actual healing.
Yeah, like I'm a fan of going to see the shaman once or twice a year and working on it and then not touching the medicine in between.
Yeah, totally. And if you go to see the shaman and you say it was fun,
That's the problem.
I don't know if you did the work, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not fun. It's a kick
No,
in the
nothing
fucking
about
teeth.
it is, it's awakening. It's enlightening. It's fucking process sucks.
Yeah, it's work. And it's also just like, you know, it's like your garage, right? Like you got all this shit in the garage and you're like, oh, I should clean it out. I should clean it out. And finally, like one day, a year later,
You just-
your wife's like, I'm going to fucking leave you unless you go clean out that stupid garage. And you're like, oh man, that was like 2 days of hell.
Yep.
And there were spiders and, you know, and I found my racquetball or whatever it was. But that's what it's like going to the shaman if you're not consistently doing work. And so I'm a guy who gets up. I knew I was driving to LA this morning. I had a bunch of shit. So I got up at 5:30. I did my Qigong. I did my meditation. I ran the dogs. You know, I listened
You
to my
ran your
audio.
whole routine.
Like I have daily work because I can't afford the once a year garage clean out. I need to kind of
Work on
take
it daily.
care of shit daily, right? Because people rely on me. I mean, you met two of
Yep.
them, like my children are here, right? Like, and there are patients and students and people that count on me for clear advice. So if I let the cobwebs form and then need to go to the shaman once a quarter to like
Yeah,
clear
then-
shit out
then
and
you're
think
screwed.
straight,
The shaman would almost be like fine tuning what you've already done.
that's it. That's it. And in all candor, like I haven't gone to a shaman in probably 3 years, right? Because I haven't needed a cathartic kick in the teeth because I'm working on myself. Now, am I probably due? Sure, right? Shit, you know, I have blind spots. I was a monk. I studied with the best of them. I have blind spots. We all do. So regardless of who you think you are, where you came from, you should always have someone poking at your blind spots to be like, hey,
Oh, yeah.
dummy, look here.
And that's the best thing.
Yeah.
How was it going from from regular life to monk life back to regular life?
Stark, contrasty, right? Very much so. But, you know, honestly, I think the monk thing, a lot of the folks I met up there, and, you know, you got Indian roots. Like, you know, I was in Varanasi sitting with some Baba after 6 months of traveling through India. I had already taken ordination in my Taoist lineage, and I was just kind of doing the India thing, going to different ashrams. And I'm like, man, is it me or does it feel like everyone's running? And he's like, yeah, this is where your world washes up thinking my world has all the answers and they're just escaping their realities, right? And he's like, you need to go back, you know, be an urban monk, right? I'm like, all right. You know, it didn't sound like as fun, right? And so I did, but it was very different coming back to Los Angeles and trying to preach people about how the lifestyle they should live. And I learned very quickly that people don't have time for that shit. People
Not here, at least.
Nah, you got a 3-year-old. You got stuff
Yeah.
going on, right? You have other habits, and like, who's gonna like you like Baja racing? Who the hell am I to tell you to take on some sort of weird yoga posture for your self-reflective time if you're already telling me that when you're Baja racing, you're in the zone and it's as close as you feel to that inner state?
Yep.
And so I really had a come to Jesus around all of it and was like, man, this is so super preachy and such bullshit. What I'm trying to like do is to get people to take the path that I took just because it worked for me. And I had to reconcile my whole deal and be like, all right, Bob, you know, tell me about your life as a lawyer. And how do we find these minutes in between to help you breathe, right? How do we find the places where you're obviously reaching out and trying to find comfort or trying to find peace in areas of your life that are less fruitful? Like, okay, cigarettes being an easy example, right? What do the cigarettes give you? Some time to yourself, a moment to breathe, go outside with the homies. Okay, so what is that? So you're having connection, you're taking a moment, you're unplugging. So can we do that without the tar, the nicotine, the vape, like, can we take out the negative parts of that and give you what you need to self-medicate in a more healthy, wholesome way, right? And so I came back from monastic life and was like, wow, I'm just kind of a preachy asshole. And my patients are like, yes, sir. Right. And they're not listening because no one's got time for what I did. So now let me go live their lives. Right. I have a wife, I have kids, I have Labradors, I sat in traffic. And I'm like, okay, like, does this shit work or not? And the parts that didn't work, I don't talk about ever again. Right. Like, sometimes I'll do stuff that's for me, like deep contemplative, like go quiet for a few days and like dig deep in the Dantians. That's not for your average person.
No.
They're just trying to
And
get
you
by.
having a partner that understands you doing that as well.
Totally, totally. And also just shooting my way into that scenario, right? It's like, oh, hey, you married a weird hippie monk guy that needs to like go do a silent retreat for 3 days, watch the kids, is a little unfair. How about, why don't I watch the kids and you go off with your girlfriends to some spa or whatever the hell fills you up, right? And do that for 3 days. And then I'll go take mine in my capacity on mine, right? It's just the
balance.
transactional balance of a relationship. And if you feed the meter, then you could cash out yourself, right? And so we have a dynamic balance. I've been married, happily married for 20, with her for 20 plus years, right? Marriage is probably 15, 16 years. And do you have disagreements? Of course you do. But I'm a big fan of Marty Seligman's work. I'm a big fan of positive psychology, and how all that came is feed the meter. Honey, you look tired. How about this? I will take the kids. You go get a massage. You do whatever you got to do. Get your nails done. Whatever the hell makes her happy,
Go do it.
go do it. Right? Feed the meter. Make sure you have plenty of positive transactional energy flowing in the areas of your life that you need to, so that when you need yours, you get it.
I think that's the best way I've ever heard that explained.
Thanks. It's not my work, right? I think Marty Seligman was a good, there's so many people. And the problem with psychology is, A, it takes a while. B, it's expensive, right? So time and money is hard for most people. But then C, you have kind of like pop psychology that is just people trying to like stand on the shoulders of giants and talk shit on Instagram. But if you go back to kind of the fundamentals of just kind of what we know and how things work, and you start applying it in your life, and then, I'm a big fan of Buddhism, I'm a big fan of Taoism, and just take some of this stuff, but don't just take the trite, feel good, bullshit Pinterest cards or like, the stuff that like, people are popularizing without having you do the work, and understand that a feel-good quote didn't make you any better. It was just another form of a quaalude. But turn around and introspect and do the work and be like, wow, I'm being really unreasonable right now because I'm in a bad mood. Do I need almonds? Do I need a nap? Do I need to not drink? Like whatever that is, and self-correct in a way that is growth-oriented, you get better. We all do. Right. And so the message I think that I've found, this is the shitty part of this industry, whatever you want to call the industry, is that everyone's trying to sell sugar cereal to children. Mm-hmm. Everyone's trying to say, here's the easy way out. And they understand that people don't want to do the work. So they talk down to people like they're children. And then people are go, oh, wow, great. This kale smoothie will change my life. No, it won't. No, it won't. But changing your framework and working on yourself and also adding kale smoothies to your life
will make a change.
Will make the change.
But it's not just that one thing. And like for me, it was stem cells changed one part, but then motivated me to do the stomach surgery and then everything else along.
Do you stretch?
I do. Daily. Otherwise, I practically live in a car. Like I do 4,000 miles a month. So for me, like I get out of the car, I instantly stretch. Yeah. I get home, I stretch in all weird positions. I use a lacrosse ball, roll out, have the masseuse come every couple weeks, like lay on my red light mat, take really hot showers before bed to loosen up. And then I sleep on essentially a rock because my back, I like firm.
Spoken like a man with body aches who's lived with it. I used to make a requirement because we had a bunch of medical clinics and, we had everything from physiatry to acupuncture, nerve feedback, all of it. And if anyone wanted to come in for a, do this to me to make me feel better,
like right now,
procedure, I would make them a bet. I'd say, hey, listen, I'm going to give you homework. And if you don't do this homework, we're not going to do the procedure on you. Here's the 3 stretches you need to do every single day. And people would lie, so I just send a picture, right? Because if you can't show me that you're willing to put a few breaths and turn your awareness in on the body part that you want us to go cut on and hack on, and you're not willing to even look inward at it and just say, fix it, my gaze is this way, you're going to be a failure for me, 100%. My doctors, my clinic, and yourself. I'm not going to do it. And so it really is the calamity of our time is the attention. If you can't turn your attention inward and focus it on, whether it's the shoulder, the hip, the marriage, or whatever, but if your attention will not come back and settle in on the problem that you're trying to solve, and you're asking someone outside of you to solve that problem inside of you,
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. Not going to work. Welcome to Western medicine. Welcome to, you know what I mean? Like all of these models are predicated on saying, oh, don't worry about it. Just break that shit. Come in, I'll fix it.
Yeah. I remember before the stomach surgery, the doctor's like, you got to lose 10 pounds. Isn't that why I'm doing the stomach surgery? He's like,
I came to you for that, bro.
He's like, lose 10 pounds, then call me. I was like, how fast? He's like, 30 days or less. Fuck. How am I supposed to lose 30 pounds? Shut my mouth more. It worked. And he's like, the reason why I had you do it was number 1, the test was when you come here, if I have to poke a 5th hole to move your fatty liver out of the way, I'm not doing the surgery. So it's like your liver was the perfect size. You didn't need the 5th hole. And then moving forward, it's a lifestyle. I'm giving you the tool, but people still eat through it.
I like this doctor. That's a good doctor.
But he's not in America.
Interesting. Yeah. Listen, I don't want to demonize doctors.
I'm not
demonizing.
There's a
lot of good people that do this, but there's also a lot of shitty people. But the system itself, it makes money on
you staying sick.
On you doing more expensive procedures, you needing more diagnostics. I can't tell you how many people I have in my life, like, people in their 70s and 80s, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you got Medicare and a supplemental. We want to see you back for this test in 2 weeks. It's like getting someone with an Amex Black card in your boutique in the Hamptons, right?
Yep.
You're like, oh, she's a shopper.
Yeah,
right?
Need this, need that. And it's like, even when you go to the health and wellness guys here, oh, you need to do this. No, you don't. Like, let's go back to the roots.
Yeah. That's been my biggest love-hate with being in the business, right? Like I got out of the clinical business because I felt like I was working the MASH unit. We were not solving any problems. We were fixing broken people coming in from the war. So how do you stop the war, right? And so I started, writing books and doing films and just kind of swimming upstream, trying to get people to like avert the big pain. Mm-hmm. And even in that industry, there's just a bunch of bullshit. Bad advice, do this, you'll look like me. He's 20. And he's not telling you he's taking testosterone and whatever, growth hormone and 19 other peptides that you don't have access to at 20, right? And he's not telling you that he also, has a shitty ass relationship with his girlfriend and just yelled at her and he's a jerk.
At 40.
Wait till he's 40. And see if he makes it to 50, right? And so there's just a lot of that bullshit. And so if you are going to listen to someone, make sure they're being authentic, right?
100%.
Yeah. And there's just a lot of like inauthentic people in the health and wellness space. They're lying.
Are you still taking on new patients?
No, I haven't seen a patient in about 5-6 years. When I started writing books, the first one was more monk than urban. The second one, titled The Urban Monk, is like in 30-something languages and just blew up. And so I was just like, oh, well, I should
People
write.
Like this.
I should write. So I've written 8 books, but I got into film because I realized people just needed to move faster, right? And, the people that I love reading books, people who love reading books, read books. There's a huge population of the world that no longer reads or listens to audiobooks.
Oh, I was going to say I do audio.
Yeah, right? Like I do audiobooks because my eyes are valuable, right? But I'd still love to nestle up next to a book and read. But as an author, it's the same thing. Like, Urban Monk, I'm on top of the mountain. You come to me and I'll teach you this exercise. Or I got to walk down to the village, find where you're at, and tell you, give you one little thing while you're, fussing over the chicken that's missing. And so it's the same thing. It's like, oh, you must read. No one reads anymore. And so you come from this place of just like, I'm going to judge them for not, being
Reading.
able to absorb this in the medium that I respect. Or it's just like, God damn it. All right, let's do some video. Right? Like let's help them where they're at. And so I started kind of going more and more into video. And now I'm blessed because I have thousands and thousands of people in my Urban Monk Academy who are learning and helping each other and all that. So my healing practice has really become around community and teaching and curation. Like if I know something well enough, I'll teach it. But if I don't, then I'll get Jeff Bland or David Perlmutter, like, the greats to teach my students, because it's like at the end of the day, we got to teach people how to fish. Do I miss actually like putting acupuncture needles in people and counseling people? Yes, sometimes. Sometimes I do.
You ever use your kids as,
Yeah, yeah. My wife's an absolute coward when it comes to needles, and she's a dentist, which is hilarious, right?
That is-
I'm like, wait.
She jabs people with Novocaine. all the
Yeah, totally hypocrite, right? So my wife doesn't receive needles, so like I'll do acupressure, and again, it was the same thing. It's like, oh, I'm not, It's like, or I could just understand that she has a genuine needle phobia, and I'm going to help her anyways, right?
Close your eyes. You'll be fine.
Yeah, or just put your thumb there and just kind of move the neck, right? Whatever it is to help her. So I've realized that there is something in being a healer that needs you to continually lean into healing. And so when I am at my best, I'm also the guy that sees something and it's like, oh, hey man, your shoulder, right? And just humbly, like Jesus washing your feet, Baba G in the village kind of thing. Just fix it, help it. What are you, too cool? You see a problem, fix it, right? And I find that when I'm less inclined to be a healer because I'm cool, I'm less in my spot, right? So for me, I need to humbly always heal, right? That's just part of my dharma.
That's an amazing story, brother.
Thank you. I mean, it's just, and listen, that didn't come from some sort of high holy place. It came from life correcting me. And
no, and it wasn't just
grace.
one thing you did in your life. It's the cumulative everything, traveling through India, becoming a monk, becoming an urban monk, writing books. Like it wasn't just one thing that said, oh, this created all of it. And it's the constant work you do now.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like the school, like, was it harder to travel, like be a Taoist monk and travel through India doing this? Or is it harder having a son who's insisting on playing Fortnite because his friends do, and, demanding an iPad or an iPhone at school because his friends do?
How old is he?
He's 10, right? So you have all these like parents that break the line and you're like, how do I deal with this? And so like the real life application of parenting in a world where your line is constantly being challenged is just as good as any monastery training if you bring your self-awareness to it.
Oh yeah. And look, I got a 3-year-old. Like iPad does come in handy sometimes, not gonna lie.
That's a great babysitter.
But then like we both got into the bad habit of she discovered YouTube. And that lasted like a couple months, and I snapped one day. I'm like, fuck YouTube. This kid is learning shit that she does not need to fucking learn. Kids YouTube, adult YouTube's gone.
It's a dumpster fire.
I was like, then I started buying these like, $100 coloring apps. I'm like, I'm spending $100 on this way better. And it's, teaching her how to draw letters, shapes, different colors. She can take a picture of it. I'm like, I will gladly pay the $100 for that. And, it allows her, if we're on a long drive, she can also have Netflix in the top corner, and fine, you can watch Elsa. But I'm now like truly controlling what she's consuming. And even like people they still say red food dye is horrible for you. It makes kids go nuts. And I tried that theory the other day, and I gave her some fucking candy with red food dye. She was a fucking lunatic. I was like, okay. No more processed sugar, Obviously, they're kids. They're going to get into some shit. So you get like the healthier whatever crap. And it's like, you got to find the happy medium.
And it moves. The line moves a lot.
Daily.
Right? YouTube is absolutely blacklisted. until they have a little bit more discernment.
What do you think, like 15-ish,
We'll
12-ish?
see. We'll see. For me, it's like demonstrate better judgment and you have more privilege, right? And so, and it's very difficult because YouTube is also late. It's like the algo is designed to
Oh,
keep them there, right?
yeah.
And there's also pedophiles and predators and just like
That's a whole different rabbit hole.
there's a whole different rabbit hole of just shitheads that have ruined it for the rest of us, right? It's like, keep them in the house, lock them in. And the problem is one of the biggest areas of concern for children and the reason they're having all these problems is they're now being deprived of free play. We used to
Oh,
go
and,
out,
and that's why I love the pod. Like, I got a bouncy house elliptical or obstacle course.
amazing. Bye bye.
They play, and I think school's 4 hours every day. Like, they play on that, they paint outside, and then they go inside for like 30, 40 minutes. And that's it. And look, when we were kids, TV wasn't the way it is now. Go ride your bike, go play with your rollerblades, go play with your skateboard. We're in the hospital a lot more. I'd rather have that.
It's there's the reasons why people don't let their kids out the house now. The world is as safe as it's ever been in the last 50 something years. Like, crime's down, all this stuff is down. But these stories of predators and pedophiles and all this kind of stuff is just like, oh my God, keep your children. And listen, there are predators, there are pedophiles, and
There's some weirdos out there.
The devil exists, right? But the problem is now the kid has this natural instinct to want to free play and explore. And then they're given this thing that gives them agency to be like, ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's this? And then the app developers are like, this is amazing. These are the breadcrumbs, send them down. And so if you don't give your kid a natural outlet for that expression, the iPad is going to.
Mm-hmm.
And YouTube has, you could stay in YouTube for days.
Oh,
right.
I guarantee you if I left her, she could stay there for hours.
Yeah. Yeah. By design.
Yeah. And then, like, it's funny, like, I take my daughter and my Doberman out. They're like, you can't have a Doberman with a 3-year-old. I'm like,
why?
I'd be more afraid of her than him.
Yeah.
They're like, he's going to hurt her. I'm like, it's actually the other way around. I have to keep her over here.
Yeah. He's going to hurt anyone who comes at her, maybe.
Yeah, but
he's not going to hurt her.
no.
Yeah.
He'll steal food from her.
I feel so bad for Dobermans and pit bulls and like all these judged breeds.
Yeah, he's a fucking teddy bear. All he wants to do is kiss you and lick you. Yeah. He's like, just pet me.
Yeah. But in the movies, the Doberman's the bad guy, right?
And the pit bull is like any dog. I think, what is it, a lab bites more humans than most?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh, everybody's got a lab or a golden retriever.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Per capita, there's more labs in front of people, right? But yeah, just don't be a shithead. Your dog will be nice.
Yeah, and my dog knows she can pretty much do whatever, and he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
He'll bark at her, but she's like, he barked at me. Did he bite you? No. Okay, you're fine.
Yeah, you probably deserved it.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, appreciate you coming on today. Where can people find you if they want to continue this knowledge and learn from you and get your books and all that fun stuff?
It's all easy. Thank you. Thanks for having me. theurbanmonk.com.
That's very complicated.
Yeah.
You on social media as well, or?
Yeah, it's all there. Signpost, Insta. I have a love-hate with social media, but I do it because, again, that's where people are at, and so that's where we're gonna meet them.
Final closing. Anything you want the viewers and listeners to really take away from or focus on?
Yeah, I think, of all the things we talked about, I would say double down on bringing your awareness back to your problems, bringing your eyes and your breath and your attention and solving them instead of moving away from them. And you'll find that your life gets better. It's really that simple.
Appreciate it, brother.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.